This is our summary for week 3 on our wellness journey. Hi, I'm Dr. Peter Minke, and this is Minke Wellness. Our motto for Minke Wellness is to minimize your learning curve to maximize your wellness. I've been doing wellness stuff for 20 years, and what I'm doing is integrating a lot of different information that I've learned over the years into a systematic wellness program for you to follow. And this week, we get into some areas that are kind of hard to teach in a single 15-minute video. So I've given you some tips in this week that are things that are probably impacting your respiratory system and our ability to get a deep breath. And you know how I feel about that. I talk about the 4 essentials for life: food, water, air, and love, and the air being a lot more powerful than the food. And so if I'm messing up in the air category, if I'm not getting a deep breath, if I'm having something that's restricting my breathing even just a tiny bit, that's going to impact my wellness a lot more substantially than messing up a little bit on my diet. So this is why I start with the respiratory system. And so this week we talked about how can I be aware of other things, outside forces. I mean, they're still in the body, but a variety of different other factors that might be affecting my breathing, and then how can I work with that? So the first day on Monday, I described what in aston-patterning we call arcing, and that is that the base of support in the hips, the position of the pelvis. If my pelvis is rolled more forward, I'm going to have more support for my chest and for my diaphragm. If my pelvis is rolled backward, then I'm going to slump. And that position here of my pelvis, it can have a dramatic impact on my ability to breathe. And the reason for that is if we follow the breathing and an exhale, you'll notice in your own body that the exhale matches a flexion pattern. So exhale out and I get short in the front. And if I inhale, it matches an extension pattern as I get long in the front. So this shortening and lengthening is involved. It happens through the spine. So the pelvis and the spine and the head neck are all related to breathing. In other words, we can feel how breathing is a whole body activity, and we can get connected to areas that are tight or restricted, and we can feel how those are impacting our breathing if we get in tune with this process. So I don't expect you to get really good at this on this one little, certainly not on this little summary, but not even on the Monday's video, but it starts to get you a beginning process of understanding this connection of how the body is interconnected and how we can affect our breathing and our body as we work with this. So if I do an exhale and an inhale and match that with my body shape, then I can actually use this as a way to kind of get a little massage going in my spine and do a little reset. So that's called arcing, and that comes from the Aston-patterning model. Judith Aston developed this paradigm called Aston paradigm, and it's ASTON. We'll put a link in the video here. Please go and look at her stuff, and she's got some videos on her website, astonkinetics.com, and a lot of really, really good material. And this is where this is coming from. The second day, we talked about how, again, the position of the pelvis, how I'm sitting at my desk, can actually be causing me to slump. I don't have enough support. My pelvis is too far back, and then I'm creating that slump and that compression, and so I'm not getting a good breath. Well, I'm also probably not getting good digestion either if I'm eating lunch and sitting at my desk all slumped over and crunched over my abdomen. So we've got a lot of things that we're not doing well in the posture category that could definitely be improved and might be impacting our breathing. And then, so just sitting correctly, getting our chair height up, getting the pelvis to roll forward, sitting on more of the front of the chair, so to speak. And then what do we do when we're not just sitting all the time? We hopefully need to get up and go walk a little bit. Well, how I get up is going to dictate what muscles I use in my core and how I walk. So you might notice if you watch yourself in the mirror get up out of a chair, you might notice that a lot of people are getting up with your chin or getting up with your shoulders and using your shoulders to lift you up, getting your body off the chair by lifting from the shoulders or from the head, neck, and people with their chin. And these are not the muscles you need to be getting up out of the chair. We need to be using the quad muscles down here in the lower body and really get the legs to push up off the chair. So how we hinge forward with the belly and push up with the quads and the legs to get my body to get support the whole time. So I don't ever lose support from my breathing if I do this correctly. So we talked about sit to stand in some of that on Tuesday. We also on Tuesday talked about the effects of bras, or we talked a little bit about bra ergonomics, and how bras, how they're put on, and the fact that they've got an elastic band that's compressing the shoulders and the chest for women who are wearing bras that are too tight most of the time, or how you put them on. So in other words, if the chest is shaped like this, where I'm all hunched over looking at the bra to try to clasp it, or if it's in the back where I'm hunched my shoulders, rolled my shoulders forward to try to clasp that bra, I'm going to place my body, my rib cage, in the shape that I don't want, that's going to restrict my breathing, and then I have this elastic band that's around my chest all day long, and how can I get a good breath? It's just not going to work. And it also is cutting off the lymphatic flow. We'll talk a lot more about that next month. So watch out for bras. We talked about how we need to put the clasp of the bra in the front with the chest supported, and then roll it around that way. Also, another thing, I don't think I mentioned this, but there's a lot we could talk about bra ergonomics. We probably need to do an entire class on bra ergonomics. So the other thing about bras is a lot of times the bra cups themselves are positioned closer together than what is natural. You have a little space in here called the sternum, and the breasts are on either side of that. Well, most of the time the bras are too close, and that probably is designed by men for the purpose of creating cleavage. But that's not healthy for the breast. We're cutting off the circulation. It's not healthy for breathing. So again, we've got this snowball effect that's negative. On Wednesday, so if you think things are too tight and you're kind of feeling like, oh my gosh, I have all these things, I don't sit right, I got too much tension in my shoulder, I get up with my neck, I get up with my eyebrows, I'm not feeling, my spine is all stuck, I'm tight. Well, now we do a self-massage routine, so we went through that on Wednesday, and how we start with the neck and worked our way down, and I did that. I'm not going to show you that here, but you have to go watch the video. So we did the self-massage routine on Wednesday, and using the massage oil, the OrthoSport massage oil. So Thursday we talked about how, as we get to understand, again, these interconnectedness, the body is all one connected whole. Things are affecting and snowballing forward. So right now, again, we're focusing on things that are impacting the respiratory system, and if we can get, work on those, it's going to snowball in the good direction, not in the bad direction. But we talked about how the diaphragm has to push down. If we're breathing with our diaphragm, it has to push down, and what is it pushing against? It's pushing against the digestive organs. So if my colon and my stomach and my liver are dense, are inflamed, then it's not going to produce a good breath. In fact, I will start to breathe, and it will hit that stopping point, and I won't be able to breathe. And the brain actually then goes into a little panic mode, saying, "Oh, I can't breathe." And that very tiny little panic message, it's not significant, it's not huge, it's probably not even noticed, but it's just enough to say, I can't breathe. I'm going to have to breathe with the shoulders. And so now all of a sudden, we go into more panic. We're going to talk a lot about that next week. So be ready with your release oil next week, because we're going to talk about stress and breathing and emotional things and panic and all kinds of those things. We're going to talk about that whole panic response. All right. So the shape of the status of the digestive system, how healthy the digestive system can have a direct impact. So what can we do? We can massage a little bit along the diaphragm, along the ribs, to get something to get that to loosen up a little bit. We can also, if we do this lying down, you can start to feel the diaphragm push down, and you can actually use the diaphragm to massage into the organs and try to get a little bit of movement. But this, again, is where we're talking about our dietary thing for the month, is to get rid of partially hydrogenated vegetable oil, and that tends to stiffen up the entire system, especially the fat system of the body gets stiffened up in the presence of partially hydrogenated vegetable oil. So this is one of the reasons why we're getting rid of that. Hopefully you've done a good job of starting to get rid of that in your diet. Don't just avoid it, eliminate it, get rid of it. So we've also talked about the last day, yesterday, we talked about the fact that the lungs can also be a secondary detoxification mechanism for the body. Obviously, it's a primary detoxification for carbon dioxide, but then if the body has other toxins that it's dealing with, they might also come out through the lungs. Again, please, I hope you've listened to me at the beginning of the week where I talked about getting rid of the synthetic fragrances. You got to get those out of there. But a lot of these toxic, aromatic toxic compounds, paint fumes and stuff will start to come out through the lungs as we get them out of the tissue, and they come out through the lungs. So the lungs can end up getting hit with, we're going to talk a lot more about that next week, hit with this detox process. So the status of the primary elimination system, if it's clogged up and it's not doing its job, meaning the colon and the kidneys and the liver, if they're not doing their job, if they're overloaded, then the respiratory system and the skin have to take over, and we can end up getting skin rashes and end up with some respiratory problems that way. So here's the issue of now we've got another secondary impact or other things that are affecting our respiratory system. So being aware of that and learning to use your supplements in context of our phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification, which we talked about a little bit about that. So in other words, we need to increase, sometimes we might need to, if we feel like we're in a detox mode that's impacting our lungs, in other words, that's starting to come out through the lungs, and that would come in the form of maybe a lot of mucus coming up, maybe some spasms, some coughing a lot and that type of thing, then we might actually have to increase our phase 2 detoxers. In this case, this is why I did this, is we started off this month with phase 2 support, which is sulfurzyme and Super C, okay? This is why I did this with sulfurzyme and Super C, because you can just increase those and get more phase 2 support, right? So that's a part of that detox mechanism, okay? Detoxzyme also is another good one to support that cleansing process. Okay, so that's our week summary. That's the summary in a week. Again, we're going to go into next week, talk a lot more about the connection, the stress category, talk about the connection between stress and respiratory system. And we're also going to do a lot about the use of what I call cleansing breath. I'm going to teach you what I call cleansing breath. And that's still part of this therapeutic breath system, and it really works. And so I really want you to be ready for Monday as we start to go into this starting the next week. So please make sure you don't get dehydrated this weekend. Keep up your hydration, keep your morning water, keep up your 80 ounces of good water. Do some massage to start loosening things up. These are all compounding forward to help us move into this next phase. And we're going to need all the help we can get on this. Also, we're going to need our release oil because, again, we're going to start connecting to the emotional elements of our healing journey. And this is the first time we're getting into this specifically. So join us next week. Happy wellness. I hope that you're finding this to be something that can actually you can actually start to pick the pieces out. But I hope you also understand that I'm weaving this together very strategically. So I wouldn't recommend just picking and choosing stuff. Oh, I know that. Really, I highly recommend that you take this systematically and go through this whole program one at a time, because this is how I've designed it. Okay? Happy wellness. We'll see you next week.